Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is time for another true crime video yet again, and today we will be talking about the trial of the 19th century, the case of Lizzie Borden. Elizabeth Borden was born on July 19th, 1860 in Fall River, Massachusetts to her parents Andrew and Sarah. She had an older sister named Emma, and although these two sisters had the luxury of living lavish lifestyles as their father Andrew was extremely wealthy, they weren't able to live their dream lives. Andrew was said to be a very frugal man, and this really annoyed his daughters. He had a lot of businesses and properties but hated spending money. When Lizzie was just a kid, their mother Sarah sadly passed away. And a few years after their mother's death, their father Andrew got remarried to a woman named Abby, someone Lizzie and Emma weren't huge fans of. And they were very open about this. People around them knew that they didn't like their father's new wife, but they had no choice but to go on with their daily lives and just accept the fact. Growing up, Lizzie was very active in church and even volunteered on teaching Sunday school. She lived a pretty normal life, aside from the fact that she was a klepto. Now, this too was a well known fact in their community. And whenever Lizzie stole something, the store owners wouldn't say anything and instead just call her father, Andrew, so he could pay whatever it was that she took. Lizzie was also extremely close with her older sister Emma and saw her as a mother figure. They dreamed of living in a mansion on top of a hill, but again, their father Andrew was a very frugal man, even when it came to what they ate. He would usually have a big batch of food cooked for them, and they would eat this for days until it ran out. And it didn't matter if it was a little funky already or about to go bad, they still had to finish it and not waste a cent. Now, at one point, the sisters actually found out that their father had been giving away land and other properties to their relatives. And even though his daughters were now adults, he never gave them their own piece of land, and they continued living with him. On August 4th, 1892, Emma was out of town. However, the rest of the family who were left at home, including Lizzie, were all suffering from food poisoning because they ate fourth day soup. Their maid Bridget and a relative whom Lizzie and Emma referred to as Uncle John also got sick from this soup. After breakfast, they all went about their day. Uncle John left at around 8:50 a.m. while Father Andrew left for his morning walk to check on his businesses while the women stayed at home. Now the maid Bridget was somewhere in the house washing dishes and doing her tasks. The stepmother Abby was cleaning the guest room Uncle John slept in, and Lizzie was busy ironing clothes in the dining room. Now, after his morning walk, Andrew came home and took a nap at their living room couch. And just a few minutes later, Lizzie ran out of the house frantic, telling their neighbor Adelaide Churchill that her father had been murdered. As soon as the police arrived, the whole scene or the whole area had already been tampered with, as a lot of the neighbors already went inside the house to come and see what was going on. And based on the looks of it, it was obvious that Andrew had been hit on the face and was bludgeoned to death. Adelaide and Lizzie then found Abby upstairs dead as well. She had been hit on the head at least 19 times. The police took note of how severe the injuries were and how brutal the attack was. I mean, the perpetrator kept on going even though Andrew and Abby were already dead. So whoever did this was very angry as the attacks were extremely gruesome. Lizzie was of course interrogated as she was there when it happened. She was treated as a suspect right away. The neighbors were also interviewed, some of them noting that Lizzie and her sister Emma was not happy at home. Now, Adelaide Churchill, the neighbor Lizzie ran to, also noted that there was no blood on Lizzie, and this was quite an important detail because when the bodies were found, Abby had already been dead for a while, at least an hour. However, Andrew had only been dead for a few minutes as his blood was still fresh. A few neighbors also mentioned seeing a man knocking angrily at the family's door. However, this was never confirmed to be true. And because of the evidence or lack thereof, the authorities theorized that whoever did this was someone from inside the house. So it was either Bridget, the maid, or Lizzie, the daughter who was unhappy. Upon inspection, a small speckle of blood was found on Lizzie's underwear, and when she was asked about this, she told the police that it was period blood. And they believed her right away. They didn't even check if she was actually on her period. But yeah, she's a woman, so she must have been bleeding. Now, the weird thing is, the day after the funeral, Lizzie was seen burning a dress because it was stained with paint. Her sister Emma backed her up on this, saying that it was actually Emma who wanted to get rid of the dress and asked Lizzie to do it for her. Investigations continued, and it was also revealed that the sisters recently found out that the house was going to be inherited by solely Emma. And the police saw this as a possible motive for Lizzie. Maybe she was angry that she wasn't getting anything, or maybe she was upset that Emma was getting the house. Now, it was possible that Lizzie was acting out. However, this was not concrete evidence to tie her up with the murder of her parents. Now, the authorities also searched the house for clues, and in the attic they found an old toolbox which contained the head of a hatchet. The handle was completely broken off, and this hatchet was covered in a layer of ash, making the police believe that it had been rinsed and burned as an attempt to get rid of DNA evidence, aka Andrew and Abby's blood, or the perpetrator's fingerprints. It was also discovered that a few days or weeks prior to the murders, Lizzie tried to obtain prussic acid from a doctor, saying that she needed it to preserve her seal coats. I think she means that she had coats made from seals. I have no idea. Now, I don't know what prussic acid was, to be honest with you, but I looked it up, Googled it, and it's better known as hydrogen cyanide, one of the most potent poisons out there. Authorities believe that Lizzie was trying to get a hold of this as she was trying to poison her parents slowly but surely. And if you guys remember, I did mention that the entire family was suffering from food poisoning after eating 4-day-old soup. The same day or the same morning that Abby and Andrew got murdered. However, I don't think that Lizzie poisoned this meal because she was going to consume it as well. And as I've mentioned, everyone in the family, everyone in the house, even the maid Bridget, Lizzie herself, as well as Uncle John, their relative, ate some of this soup. So I don't think Lizzie would have poisoned the entire thing. On August 8th, 4 days after the murder, an inquest hearing began. Now, for some reason, Lizzie was given some morphine, and due to this, she was acting quite erratic, refusing to answer any question that was thrown at her. And because of not cooperating, she was then arrested. The following year, June 5th, 1883, the trials began. Now, creepily, Andrew's and Abby's skulls were excavated and brought in court as evidence. Upon seeing this, Lizzie passed out. Now, these skulls were brought in court to be compared to the handleless hatchet found in their attic, and it completely matched. However, there was not enough physical evidence to tie Lizzie up with the murders. The trials lasted for 3 weeks and became a huge thing. I mean, it is referred to as the trial of the 19th century. It gained so much public traction, and people would always wait for how Lizzie would react or what she would wear. People were amused because she would show up in these really nice dresses and carried herself with much poise. Now, Lizzie Borden passed out once again when she heard the final verdict: not guilty. People cheered in support because even though evidence was kind of piling up against her, not a lot of people believed that she was capable of doing something like this to her father and stepmother. She then received a $350,000 inheritance, which is worth $10 million in today's money. She and Emma also finally purchased a big house on top of a hill, just like the one they had always dreamt of as kids. But even though all charges were dropped, life was not good to Lizzie. She was banned from their church and was no longer welcome in their old neighborhood. She and Emma also had a falling out, which caused Emma to move out of their house. From what I've heard, the two never spoke again. And Lizzie lived a very lonely life, which she spent with her dogs. Lizzie Borden died in 1927 due to complications from pneumonia. She was 67 years old. And just 9 days later, her estranged sister, Emma, also passed away from kidney failure. And that is pretty much all that I have on this case. As usual, I would really love to hear your thoughts on this case. Do you think Lizzie did it? Do you think she's innocent, or do you think it was someone else? I tried to look up if they ever questioned Bridget, the maid, because, I mean, I'm not trying to put the blame on someone else, but it is possible for her to have a motive as well. Because, I forgot what it was, but her real name's Bridget, but the girls, I think, referred to her as Maggie or something else because that was their previous maid's name. I mean, these girls, Lizzie and Emma, they were very spoiled. They were that rude. And instead of learning Bridget's name, they just referred to her as their old or previous maid's name. And also, since Andrew was a very frugal man, it is also possible that Bridget was underpaid. They also never looked into Uncle John or one of the neighbors or one of the people who owed Andrew money or one of his tenants, because as I have mentioned, Andrew had a lot of properties, a lot of businesses, and that means more enemies, I believe. But yeah, let me know what you think. And if there is any other case that you would like for me to cover, please let me know by leaving a comment. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys on my next video.